We are getting closer and closer to finishing up the installation on the turbo kit. Since the last video, I got a few more things knocked out. Like I got the oil feed line ran. It is not plugged in because if you guys didn't watch the last video, I explained that I'm going to wait until I get my oil pressure gauge in the mail because I believe I'm going to have to plug it up into the same area, so we'll do all that at one time. But yeah, I also got the belt on, so that's looking pretty good. And then another huge thing that I got done that was stressing me out for a while is I got the oil filter back on. And if you guys are not familiar with On3 kits and Fox bodies, or you haven't done any research on the topic, the oil filter, the OEM oil filter will not fit once you have the new turbo exhaust manifolds on, because they go forward and the OEM oil filter is about double the length of the current one that I have on the car. So there's no way that the OEM one's gonna go on there, and then that leaves you with a couple options. Some guys run like a 90-degree adapter to be able to fit the oil filter. Some guys run a whole oil filter like relocation kit. Both of those options were just not ideal for me. I really wanted to just use the factory mounting location without having any adapter or relocation kit. So what I had to do to get that in there, guys, it was a little bit more work than the other two options I previously stated, but in my opinion it looks a lot better. So basically all I had to do was grind off like 3 or 4 threads on the little oil filter bung that comes out of the block, and once I grinded off, I think it was 3 or 4 threads, that gave me just enough room to slip the oil filter in there and then be able to thread it. And if you guys can see, like, it's super close to the exhaust manifold. But yeah, 3 or 4 threads, grind it off of the bung, and then, you know, just make sure it's nice and smooth, and the oil filter went in like butter. So I'm stoked on that. Like I said, it was a little bit more work than just putting a 90-degree fitting or a oil filter relocation kit, but I mean, you guys can decide for yourselves, but I think that looks a lot better than having the oil filter hanging down here or having some lines running to an oil filter somewhere else. So yeah, I'm stoked with how that turned out. So yeah, boys, I also plugged in the oil return line into the oil pan, so that's all dialed in. And yeah, today we are going to be pulling the bumper off to put the intercooler on, and I'm pretty stoked, guys, because it's like pretty much the last of the turbo kit we have to install is the intercooler and the cold side pipes. So here's the intercooler. That's what we're going to be focusing on today. I got some, I don't know what these are, like shelf brackets at Home Depot. I was looking forever for some just standard L-shaped brackets, and I couldn't find any in the size that I wanted. So I'm hoping we could chop these up into a few different pieces and make them work for us. But yeah, boys, depending on how the intercooler installation goes, I'm just gonna go ahead and start installing the cold side pipes as well. So with that being said, boys, let's get into it. All right, we are ready to attempt to remove the bumper. There is a total of 6 nuts along the side of the bumper that attach it to the fender on both sides, and then I removed the 2 bolts that were up here in the front. So yeah, let's see if this wants to come off. Alright, bumper's off. Now we just got to disconnect all the headlights and stuff, and then we can pull it away from the rest of the car. The bumper is off. Sick. Check it out. The whole front bumper removed, and this is what we are left with. So now let's take off I don't know what this is called, bumper support, crash bar, I don't know what it's called, but we're taking it off. And then yeah, we'll get the rest of the stuff out of the way. Like, this was for the power steering, which we no longer have, so we could take that off. This just looks like it's a support bar, so we will try to leave that. It looks like it might be in the way, honestly, of the intercooler. But yeah, let's just get this front bar off. I don't know what it is, bumper support, crash bar, not sure, but we got to get her off, so let's do that. I'm gonna address my pants real quick too, because I know they look a little bit crazy, but I hadn't done laundry in a little bit, so I didn't have any fresh shorts to wear, boys. So Yeah, pajama pants it is. Don't judge me. Let's get it. All right, boys, here's the first official test fit of the intercooler. What's pretty sick, I still have the mounts for the AC condenser, and since we no longer are running an AC, there is no AC condenser, so that's pretty sick. Ooh, look at that, boys. Right next to the mount. Right next to the mount. And that's pretty damn centered. Ooh, that's looking nice. At first look, that appears to be kind of in the ballpark of where I'm gonna want the intercooler to sit. But before we start mocking up any type of brackets or anything like that, let's just throw the front bumper back on to see where the intercooler sits in the lower vent area of the bumper, because that's very important. So I just want to make sure that the intercooler is not too high or too low before we start trying to make some brackets for it. So let's test fit the bumper. So unfortunately, I was stoked about the brackets still being there for the AC condenser because the intercooler sits on it perfectly, but if you guys look, it's sitting way too high. So we're gonna have to remove the AC condenser brackets and then try to get the intercooler a little bit lower and then retest fit the bumper. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and start chopping up these shelving brackets to see if we can't make the lower brackets for the intercooler. That way we can get it at the height we want, so we can kind of dial it in from there. So here we go. Okay, so we got that part cut out of it. So my idea behind it, they were triangles, right? So we're gonna use this part for the bottom because it's just a flat, and then we're gonna use this part as the L's for the top. Obviously we're gonna have to trim it down once we find out exactly where we're gonna need it, but yeah, it's pretty cool because one bracket turns into top and bottom mount for the intercooler. So let me go take some measurements and see how long we're gonna need this, and then we can smoke some holes through it and bolt it up to the bottom of the car. And now that we got that all cut to size, I'm gonna go ahead and do the exact same thing to the other bracket so we have two matching pieces. Here's what we got going on. We got those bracketed off to the bottom of the intercooler. So now the intercooler is completely flush with the bottom of the car, where before it was like 2 or 3 inches up. So yeah, so now it's completely flush. So let's test fit the bumper again, and if it is low enough now, which it should be because I really don't want to go lower than flush, then we'll take everything back off. I will clean up the brackets, get them painted, put them on, and then we could focus on bracketing up the top of the intercooler. But right now, let's test fit the bumper to see where we're at height-wise. That might be it. Yeah, I think that's it. Because these are all gonna have to get cut and bent down. Yeah, I'm pretty pumped with that. So yeah, so now we're gonna take the bumper back off, finalize those bottom brackets, start working on the top brackets, and then we'll just keep pushing from there. I'm gonna go ahead and trim up the L brackets now. Here's where we're at. I got the L brackets mocked up where they're going to be mounted, and I got a level on the intercooler. She's level, and then we got the brackets that we did on the bottom. So I'm happy with that. I think that looks pretty good. What we're going to do now is take all the brackets back off to dial them in and clean them up a little bit. I'm going to round off the edges just so it's not sharp and it just looks a little bit better and cleaner. And then after we round off the edges on all 4 brackets, I'm going to paint them black just so they don't stand out. Then we could throw all the brackets back on for good, test fit the bumper. Actually, we should probably test fit the bumper one more time right now before we take all the brackets off and dial them in. And then just to make sure that everything is still the way that we left it the last time we pulled the bumper off. So yeah, I'm gonna double check the fitment of the intercooler with the bumper back on, then we'll pull off all the brackets and clean them up, paint them, and then put them all back on, and that's it. The intercooler will be installed for good. And then after that, we can start running the pipes, boys. I went ahead and got the intercooler brackets all dialed in, and they came out really good. The bottom as well. And then I went ahead and threw on the lower cold side pipes, and that looks crazy. So before we throw the bumper back on, I'm going to go ahead and attach the rest of the cold side pipes. That way I know exactly how these lower pipes have to be positioned before we throw the bumper back on, and then we can throw the bumper back on, and yeah, we'll be good to go, boys. She's looking crazy. My mom came out earlier and told me I should just leave it like this. I was like, what do you mean, Ma? She's like, it's a race car, ain't it? We have run into our first little issue, or our biggest issue so far since installing the kit. And if you look here, you'll see the pipe that comes out of the turbo. Well, first off, it is extremely close to the hot side cross pipe, which, you know, is not desirable, but it is what it is. It's also about a finger's gap away from the crank pulley, which is pretty close. But I don't want to push the pipe back further anymore. I think right there is where it needs to go. And the problem lies right here. If you look, we're about an inch and a half off from the U-pipe that comes out of the intercooler. You guys can see right here. See that? That's about how much we're off. Just about an inch and a half. And the only way that I could think to fix that would be to move the intercooler farther out forward, which is not really an option. And the other thing I came up with, or the other idea I had, was to cut an inch or an inch and a half out of the center of the pipe here, and then re-weld it, and that will bring that tip closer towards the intercooler, about an inch and a half, and then we'll be able to line it up perfectly with that pipe without having to move the pipe that comes out of the turbo closer to the hot side pipe or the crank pulley. And I don't know if I want to weld that. I think I might look up a shop that does some nice welding and just take it there and have them cut an inch and a half out of it and re-weld it. But with that being said, guys, I don't think I'm going to go forward with the rest of the piping today, because like I said, I do have to cut this open wider in order for that to fit. So I think we're good the way we're at right now. We got a lot done in this video. We got the intercooler installed, and then we also started to mock up the cold side pipes, which I said in the beginning of the video we may or may not get to. So we ended up getting to it, and we ended up finding that we have a little issue. So now I'm gonna have to do some research, find somewhere that welds in my area so I could take that U-pipe to them and have them address the cut and the weld, and then I'll bring it back out here. Should be able to put it in place and it will line up perfectly, and then we can continue with the passenger side cold pipe at that point. But yeah, boys, I think that is gonna be it. What I'm going to do right now is I'm just gonna put the bumper on for you guys, because I also, while I was waiting for the paint on the brackets that we chopped up to dry, I had modified and cut my front bumper a little bit in order to fit the intercooler. So I'm gonna throw the front bumper on real quick. The front bumper, did I say that weird? I don't know, it sounded weird. I'm gonna throw the front bumper on the car real quick so you guys can see how the intercooler looks. And yeah, and then that'll pretty much be it for this video. Check it out, boys. Boom. So sick. It looks so good. It looks a little wonky, but that is because of the top part of the bumper. It's all like wavy and out of shape. So that contributes to it looking a little bit warped. But yeah, if you look at the bottom line there, you can just see that perfect little strip of silver. So it's pretty good, guys. I'm stoked on it. I was planning on continuing to knock out the cold side pipes today, but as you guys saw, we ran into that little issue. So now I just got to do a little bit of research, hopefully find a local shop that does some welding, and I could take it to them in this upcoming week to have them knock it out. And I'm hoping that they could just do it while I'm there and I don't have to drop it off, so that way this upcoming weekend we can just finish up all the cold side piping, and yeah, we'll be that much further in this process of installing the turbo kit, boys. After we get all the cold side piping in, we just got to do a bunch of little things like run some vacuum lines and just double check all of our clamps and whatnot, make sure everything is tight, and then, you know, we'll be ready to fire her up. But that's gonna be it for this video, guys. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to hit the like button for me, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Be easy.